Have you ever wondered what your older self might want to tell you about how you're living now? The choices we make today, often small and seemingly insignificant, shape the stories we'll reflect on decades from now. Today, I want to share 3 regrets that I think we'll have 30 years down the line, and I'll explore how we can start living more intentionally right now to avoid them. By the way, for those wondering if I've handed in my resignation since I posted my last video, I'm still sitting on it. Hopefully by Monday I press the send button. Also, to the new subscribers and to everyone who's returning, hello again. It's lovely having you guys here. Now, let's dive into it. So, regret number 1. Spending too much time on our screens. Technology. What a double-edged sword. On one hand, it connects us, informs us, and entertains us. On the other, it's one of the biggest thieves of our time, stealing moments we can never get back. Have you ever caught yourself endlessly scrolling, maybe even forgetting why you picked up your phone in the first place? And then, when you finally snap out of it, you realise hours have disappeared. Time you could have spent with loved ones, learning something new, or just enjoying the quiet. I think back to so many moments when I was there physically, but not really there. Glued to a screen while eating my food, ignoring a beautiful sunset on a quiet evening walk, even zoning out on a train ride instead of just taking it in. Moments I can't get back. Here's a thought that really struck me. Studies show the average person spends over 3 hours a day on their phone. That adds up to 45 days a year. But let's do some more maths. If you sleep 8 hours a night, that's over 68 waking days. More than 2 months. Nearly an entire season of your life spent staring at a screen. Imagine what you could accomplish with that time if you spent every waking moment learning something new, like a language, or if you spent it deepening relationships, or resting, or just living. And let's talk about why it's so hard to stop. Social media is designed to be addictive. Algorithms are like digital drug dealers, feeding us little dopamine hits with every notification, every like, every autoplay video. They study our habits, learn what we love, what keeps us scrolling, and then they give us more of it. It's scary to think about, but we're reaching a point where these algorithms know us better than we know ourselves. They predict our preferences, our fears, our desires, and they use that knowledge to keep us hooked. Addiction aside, there are real dangers to living so much of our lives online, from data breaches and identity theft to the constant erosion of our privacy. Every tap, every swipe leaves a digital footprint, and honestly, we're so used to handing over so much of our personal information without even realising it. I know this all too well because I've lived it. My addiction started with Instagram. At 16, I thought I was just keeping up with friends, sharing moments, staying in the loop. But the more time I spent on it, the worse I felt. I started comparing my life to these perfectly curated highlights, which I didn't know at the time was photoshopped. It ate away at my mental health until I finally abandoned it altogether. But then the addiction found its way back into my life, this time through streaming videos, YouTube, Netflix, 4D, anything to escape reality. I procrastinate on my studies, neglecting myself, and I opt out of social situations entirely. It wasn't just about wasting time. It started to eat away at who I was. My confidence disappeared. My attention span shortened. My understanding of reality blurred. And the isolation, it was unbearable. I felt trapped in this cycle of loneliness. The more I isolated myself, the less I liked myself. And the less I liked myself, the more I isolated myself. It was this vicious loop, and it took years to break free. When I think about the future, I can imagine the regrets so clearly. Sitting there at 70 or 80, looking back and thinking, why did I spend so much of my time, my precious time, staring at a screen? What did I really gain from all those hours lost online? It's such a haunting thought, but it's also a call to action. We can't undo the time we've already spent on our screens, but we can start making changes today. What if we set boundaries with our technology? Maybe it's a phone-free meal. Maybe it's setting a timer on social media apps, or scheduling time offline to focus on our hobbies or relationships. I know it's not easy. It's something I'm still working on myself, but every small step counts. Because when we look back in 30 years, I want us to remember the connections we built, the experiences we lived, and the moments we truly showed up for. Now, regret number 2, working too hard. Let's talk about working too hard. Because if you're anything like me, you've probably found yourself caught up in an idea that being busy equals being successful. You know, those days when the to-do list don't stop, the nights stretch longer than they should, and there's that little voice in your head saying, just get through this, and things will finally settle down. It sounds harmless enough, but let's be real. It's not just the long hours we're justifying. It's the burnout that creeps in, the moments we miss, and the relationships that quietly fade into the background while we tell ourselves we're just too busy right now. And here's the thing, I've been there. I have had stretches of life where work consumed me so completely, I barely felt like myself anymore. Skipping meals, cancelling plans, and saying, not now, to the people I care about more times than I want to admit. And honestly, I think I could slip into that same pattern again with this channel. It's scary to notice, but I'm aware, and I've been consciously trying to do less. This is a wake-up call. It's scary to admit, but it's true. I find myself constantly thinking, what's next? Instead of focusing on the precious moments unfolding right in front of me. My baby, my partner, my beautiful little family that I'll never have these years with again. And the truth is, when I look ahead, I don't want to be 50, 60 or 70 years old, flipping through a photo album and realising there are blank pages where memories with my family should have been. Though I do actually think this is dangerous too, trying to capture a moment instead of living it. I don't want to end up regretting missing bedtime stories or lazy Sunday mornings just because I was glued to my laptop, chasing what exactly? Bonnie Ware, a palliative care nurse, found that one of the top regrets of the dying is working too hard. And it is said that 90% of people in hospice care regret working too much. 90%. That statistic stopped me in my tracks. Because when life is winding down, we don't wish we'd sent more emails or taken on that extra project. We wish we spent more time with the people we love. For me personally, I also want to spend time with nature and volunteering again. And yet, here we are in a world that measures success by how busy we are. But what if we flip that? What if success looked like leaving work on time, saying yes to family dinner, or taking a nap without feeling guilty? When I think about the future, I want to look back and see a life rich with joy, connection, and rest. A life where I truly understood myself, grew in self-love and wisdom, and shared that growth with others. not a blur of deadlines and tasks I could barely recall. Because time is the one thing we can never get back. So here's my question for you. What would happen if you started setting boundaries around work? If you gave yourself permission to rest without feeling like you're slacking off? If you prioritized the people and the moments that matter most? Maybe it's as simple as saying no to that extra project, or closing your laptop at 5 p.m. Or this one's for me, reminding yourself that your worth isn't tied to your productivity. Because when we redefine what success looks like, we might just find that it's been here all along, in the moments we almost missed. Regret number 3. Overvaluing material things. We live in a world that whispers, you need this to be happy. New gadgets, trendier clothes, a bigger car. But how many times have we chased that rush, only to find, once the excitement fades, that it's not enough? That we're left craving the next, bigger, shinier thing. I felt it myself, that excitement of a new purchase, and for a moment, it feels like everything will fall into place. But it doesn't. I realise that these don't fill the deeper need I thought it would. And I've seen how attachment to material things, whether it's a fancy gadget or a car or even clothes, can take up so much space in our lives that we forget what really matters. And it's not just about the stuff. Overvaluing material things can make us forget can make us forget the most important parts of life, like relationships, experiences, and inner peace. Worse, it fuels greed and comparison. Imagine living in a lovely home that perfectly meets your needs, but it happens to be next to a mansion. Suddenly, your lovely home feels like it's not enough. That feeling of, I got the short straw, creeps in, or this isn't fair, even if it's far from the truth. In 30 years, we might look back and think, why did I spend so much money accumulating things that outlived their usefulness or outlived me? Why didn't I focus on building memories and relationships instead? One of the hardest lessons I've learned is that material things can never define us. They can be lost, damaged, or discarded, and if we're too attached, the loss can feel devastating. The more we simplify, the lighter and freer we feel. And let's talk about experiences. Even those can get caught up in this web of materialism. We feel like we need to book flights to far off places to have a proper holiday. But why? What's wrong with enjoying your time off in the beauty that's close to home? You don't need to travel thousands of miles to find a bed, a bathroom, and a meal. It's the same thing wrapped up in a different package. Sometimes, the most profound joy comes from rediscovering what's already around you. Life's richness isn't measured by things we own or the miles we travel. It's found in the love we share, the moments we cherish. I can't say that word. We cherish. And the joy of keeping life simple. As Bob Marley said, and I can't do it in his voice, of course, possessions make you rich. I don't have that kind of richness. My richness is life. Technology, work, and material things, they are not inherently bad, but if we don't pause to reflect, they could lead to some of our deepest regrets. So I invite you to ask yourself, what really matters in your life right now? What choices will your future self thank you for? Start living today in a way that leaves us with fewer regrets tomorrow. I just wanted to say I've really enjoyed making these videos. It's reminded me of something I used to do often, taking time to reflect on my life, my habits, and my moods. With a baby, it's been harder to make space for that kind of self-awareness, but filming and writing these have brought it back into my routine, and I'm really enjoying reconnecting with it. I hope you've enjoyed watching it and it's brought value into your day. Tonight's dinner is a bit of an experiment. A jackfruit curry served with rice and fries. Fries and curries might seem unexpected, but it's actually a combination you'll find in some cultures. And honestly, it just works. The crispy fries with a rich, spicy curry, comfort food at its finest. The curry gets its heat from my homemade fire cider, a sharp, tangy blend of apple cider vinegar infused bits of chili, horseradish, turmeric, ginger, and other fiery goodness. It adds just the right amount of kick without overpowering the other flavours. I'd like to say I measured out how much I put into the curry carefully, but truthfully it was more of a plonk it until it feels right situation. The jackfruit, as always, soaks up the spices beautifully, turning it into something hearty and satisfying. Cooking this felt like one of those meals where you don't overthink. You just go with what feels right and know it will be a unique one-off dish that you can't repeat because you can't remember exactly what you did. As I serve it up, I can't help but feel a little excited to dig in. Thanks for being here and sharing these moments with me. What are you cooking tonight? I'd love to hear your ideas or even your favourite curry pairings. And back to the topic of today's video, thank you for watching. What are the small steps you're taking today to live without regrets? I'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections. Until next time.